Hi, this is Paul Lang, Captain Harrison Hawk from Star Trek Horizon, and you are listening to the biggest little show this side of any Iconian gateway. It's the Trek Geeks Podcast with Bill Smith and Dan Davidson.
Biggest little show this side of the Alpha Quadrant, your independent Star Trek podcast. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Trek Geeks. We're glad you're here. Thank you for downloading, and thank you for listening. I'm your co-host, Bill Smith. We are very excited to have this particular discussion tonight, and by we, of course, I mean us, and by us, I mean my illustrious co-host is going to join me as well. He is a guy who, well, let's just say there's a steady line of people ready to replace him at a moment's notice, and all of them will be far more talented than he is. But, well, now he's got a fancy old tattoo, so I can't get rid of him. He's the inked-up Dan Davidson. Dan, welcome aboard, brother.
Hey, man. It's good to be here. Thanks for that great introduction, as always. And, yeah, you're stuck with me now, buddy. We're tattoo buds.
I know. I kind of feel like we're marked for life.
That was quite a fun experience, and it's we're committed, I guess, is the best way to put it, as you put it earlier today on social media.
Yeah, we're in this, I guess, now, huh? No backing out after 2 years and 108 episodes.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be stuck with you. Thank you.
We went to Precision Body Arts in Nashua, New Hampshire last night, and we got the brand new Trek Geeks Delta symbol tattooed on our glorious and lovely bodies. And it's something we're very excited to do, and I got to say, it came out fantastic.
It came out beautifully on your forearm, my shoulder. I'm so excited and happy of the results on both of us. That Delta looks pretty nice on that forearm of yours with that Boldly Go right above it, man.
I'm just glad I was able to talk you out of getting yours as a lower back tattoo.
Might not have talked me out of it yet.
Well, Dan, people may have other tattoo suggestions for us, and how can they route those comments, feedback, concerns, photos, our general direction?
Whole bunch of different ways. On Twitter, Facebook, Skype, and Instagram, our handle is Trek Geeks. And you can also send us an email at podcast@trekgeeks.com. If you want to talk to us and leave a message, as our good friend over at Mission Log says, we would love to hear your voice. You can give us a call at 508-784-1701. Leave us a voicemail, and you can do the same thing over at speakpipe.com/trekgeeks. And as you know, we also have our official Facebook group, Camp Kittimer. It's always available for you to join. We'd be happy if you went on over there to facebook.com/groups/Camp Kittimer. And one of our wonderful and talented admins, Heather, Jackie, or Dan, will let you write in to share in all the fun. And as a special gift, you will get an early edition sneak peek every week of the Trek Geeks podcast just for being a member of that Camp Kittimer Facebook page. So it's awesome. But just remember, any comments or messages that you leave us in any of these places may be used in a future episode. Back to you, Bill.
Thank you, Dan. That's fantastic. I have to ask you, Dan, are you a member of Camp Kittimer?
Am I a member of Camp Kittimer? I am a like one of the first members of Camp Kittimer, sir.
So we still want people to join despite the fact that Dan is a member. Please don't let that hinder you in coming and clicking the join button. We have fun despite the fact that Dan is there.
I could not have walked into that any better than I did. Thanks, pal.
It was like a garden rake, buddy. Dan, we also have a special guest geek joining us for the full hour.
Oh, the full hour. Absolutely. We've been looking forward to this for a long time. It seems like it's been a long time in the making. And finally, Synthaholics Podcast own Dave Duncan is joining us tonight for a fun-filled episode of See It or Skip It, TNG Season 4. Dave, it's about time, man.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. It is about time, and I think we should just see it all or skip it all, whichever you feel like.
We'll see TNG and we'll skip Dan. How's that?
Okay.
See,
More
that's the
booth
problem
rats, right?
with you being the executive producer is you get to jump in first, and you took my line.
That's what I do. That's why I'm here. Dave, why don't you tell us a little bit about Synthaholics?
We're a little bitty Star Trek podcast up in the Northeast, not as Northeast as you guys. We do a weekly, silly, mostly sometimes drunken, just Star Trek podcast. We talk about news if there is any, really off the cuff, very little preparation, just to kind of spitball everything. Aaron, my co-host, he's amazing. He actually comes prepared. He comes with notes, and he'll read the recap of the episode as I interrupt him constantly to make jibs, jabs, and jokes, and then we do a deep dive on the discussion. And we don't ever really plan where we're gonna go, so sometimes it's just off the wall weird stuff, and sometimes we get deep, and it's really cool when we get deep because we don't ever really plan it, and so it's a lot of fun whichever way it turns out.
Excellent. Yeah, you guys started really kind of around the same time we did, and it's been a fun ride so far, I have to say.
Yeah, I found your show as it came out, and I was putting my show together, and I was actually getting information from you, Bill, and you got me set up with Lipson because I wasn't sure how I was going to host my show yet. So I thank you for that because Lipson saved me so much time and makes it so much better.
I got to say, I like the idea of having a drunk podcast because God knows I need to be drunk when I'm here with Bill every week. So that's a good idea, man. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I mean, before the show, I had a 4-shot drink, and now I'm having a 6-shot drink. So,
Fantastic.
If I slur anything, just, that's why.
We'll catch it in the edit.
Just overdub it with Dan, bore.
We'll have Dan doing Aaron Neville impersonation.
So your matching tattoo, is it linked by quantum entanglement?
Oh.
Wow, you have had a couple of drinks, haven't you? That's fantastic. No, we're lucky that we've got the same ink color, quite frankly. The whole time Dan was on the table, he couldn't obviously see what was getting inked on his shoulder. I kept joking with him, dude, why is that pink?
And purple. Yeah. And he really was doing that too. And of course, I'm like, oh, that's real funny. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, God.
Well, it's a tramp stamp, so you got to take his word for it.
Right? Actually, no. It's the artist, Kevin at Precision Body Arts, did a fantastic job. Dan went first because he lost the rock, paper, scissors. And it's probably good that he did because he was able to keep the crying to a minimum this time.
Well, that's always good.
Dan, I hear we have an update in our Cosplay for Good campaign for Star Trek Las Vegas coming up in just about 4 weeks.
It is a great... What, do you want me to do the sound effect for the update? Or to just...
Do you have a sound effect?
There we go. Okay, so yes, we have a great update. I'm blown away, man. Every day I look at this and I'm just like, oh my God, we are now over 70% of our goal for this amazing Cosplay for Good campaign that we're doing. We just reached that plateau today. Looking forward to getting that 100%. We're trying to raise $1,000 for the Nevada SPCA, which is the largest no-kill animal shelter in the Las Vegas area. We're going to do some silly stuff in Vegas on that Saturday, the biggest day of the con, Bill, and it's going to be pretty scary but exciting at the same time.
Indeed. In fact, scary because people are going to have to see our legs. Yes, we are going to wear the TNG scant uniforms from season 1.
Ooh la la.
I know, it's pretty exciting. And we're doing it just to raise money for the Nevada SPCA. We're having the scants custom made and we will wear them. And once we're there, we're going to have a selfie challenge. So for the first 100 selfies people take with us and then use the appropriate hashtag on that day, we'll donate $1, an additional $1 to the Nevada SPCA. But that's not all. Our incredible friends at both the GNT show and the Trek Ranks podcast have announced they will match that $1 per selfie. So right now, it's going to be $3 total for the first 100 selfies. So an additional $300 for all the dogs, cats, and adoptable animals in Nevada, Dan.
Wait a minute. 3 times 2,500. $1,300 possible.
You are good at math, and math is hard.
Math is hard, but math makes things go, and it's just seeing these donations come in. You know, we've talked so many times about how much we love our dogs. I have 2 dogs, you have 1 dog, and we're really looking forward to bringing this check, I guess you could say, or however we're going to bring it over to the Nevada SPCA that day, and we're really very honored and humbled at what we've seen so far.
We really are, and we can't thank everyone who's donated enough so far. The response has been fantastic. We're looking forward to taking lots of selfies in Vegas. It's important to point out that this money that we're raising goes directly to the Nevada SPCA from GoFundMe. It will never see our hands. We'll never have possession of it. It'll never be in any kind of account of ours. You can donate knowing that this money is going to go directly where it's needed to the adoptable animals in the greater Las Vegas area. So to find out more, I can't even speak today. I've got Dan Davidson disease.
Wow.
Go to GoFundMe.com/Trek Geeks. That's GoFundMe.com/Trek Geeks, and you can find out all about our campaign to show off our sexy legs, Dan.
Can't wait. Oh boy, I got to get in shape like you, man. We got less than a month here.
I know. Yeah, thank you. Please, autographs later. Gentlemen, we gathered today to consider the 4th season of Star Trek The Next Generation in this 30th anniversary year. And Dave, it looks like you get to be the ringmaster for tonight's See It or Skip It, and we hope you're up to the task, my friend.
I am up for the task, my friends.
See that you are.
Yeah, see that you are, mister.
I'll read them out of order just because I'm drinking now.
Well, the rules are simple. Dan and I are going to go through each one, tell people whether they should see it or skip it and why. And then at the end, we'll tally them up and see how we came down. I think the first 3 seasons have been fairly interesting. I think 1 was pretty much a 50% across the board for both of us. Season 2 was roughly 50%, like 45.5. Season 3, we had some much better numbers. I was like 25-26 on that one.
96% you had there, bud.
And I think you had like 85% or something like that.
Just about. Sure.
So we'll see what season 4 brings us, because clearly they kicked up the quality quite a bit during season 4.
So it looks like we're going to plateau at a higher average.
Who knows at this point? It's
anyone's game.
It's anyone's game.
Wow.
So with that, Dave, you can choose whomever you'd like to start each round, and feel free to chime in with your own votes too.
Most definitely. So Episode 1 of Season 4 is The Best of Both Worlds Part 2. Picard is rescued from the Borg as the Enterprise races to save Earth. Data interfaces with a half-Borg Picard and finds a way to shut down the Borg ship. Dan Davidson.
Ooh, I get to start first. Wow, that's quite an honor. Well, I mean, who's not going to say see it for this? It's a see it. I mean, after all, this is the conclusion to arguably the best cliffhanger in television history. So yes, it's a see it. But with that being said, it was a disappointing conclusion to part 1. Sleep data, indeed. But it's a see it.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, it's like you said, Dan. It's this is the biggest and probably the best television cliffhanger in the history of the medium. Despite the fact that it's slightly underwhelming. And in fact, the sleep data is the first thing I think of. I too also have labeled it as a see it. So we're 1 for 1.
Wow.
So I rate this as a see it too, unless you've seen it in the Fathom events. Did you either have the honor of doing that?
I did.
The second part was ruined by them not having the music there. Because that the intensity of the music at the end of the cliffhanger just like drove it home, and you've got to wait however long that was between seasons.
It was about 7 years, I think is what it was.
And then that edit just like killed the moment, especially since like nothing happened really.
Exactly.
So like the first one's definitely better, but it's definitely a see it because I mean you can't watch the one without the other.
Exactly.
No.
All right. So family. When the Enterprise is undergoing repairs at Earth, Captain Picard visits his brother's family in France. Lieutenant Worf's adoptive human parents come to see him on the ship, and the Dr. Crusher gives his son Wesley a personal holo recording left by his late father shortly after his birth. Dan Davidson!
Oh, I get to go first again. Ha, Bill, you get to wait. So yeah, this is definitely a See It episode. This is one of the best of the season. It's a beautiful episode, especially on the Picard side of the story. All three stories are great, but the Picard one is definitely up there, followed by Worf and his parents from Russia. And finally, poor Wesley gets to do something, and we get to see a movie set kind of uniform with his father. So yeah, See It.
And
yeah,
Bill.
I'm in the same boat. This is one of my all-time favorite Next Gen episodes, just for what it means to Picard. You know, especially since we've never seen a Starfleet captain this broken before. You know, that scene where he melts down after his fight with his brother Robert is just, it's amazing, and Patrick Stewart just kills it. So it's an absolute See It for me.
Everything is perfect about this episode, except for maybe Wesley and his dad without the turtleneck. Monster Maroon's a beautiful uniform, but it needs a turtleneck to survive.
We were just talking about that last week, yeah.
Yep. So yes, I would give this a See It as well. It's a beautiful episode. I love the fight, the mud fight, and they just come in and trash the house like children.
One of the best scenes of this whole episode is when they hug when they're leaving, and then when Robert kind of like stands up, he's got this look on his face like, get away from me, you smell, or something. It's just the funniest looking face, but I love it.
It's very good, very good. All right, so we've 2 down. Brothers. Data is summoned by his creator, Noonien Singh. They are joined by Data's brother, Lore. Mr. Bill Smith.
Oh, I get to go first. Woohoo! Let's see. Brothers it's a See It for me, and it's not because I love the story, because I don't necessarily. It's because Brent Spiner plays 3 very different roles, and they're all fantastic in this episode. Nothing in this episode works if he's off in the slightest, and he nails it with each of the 3 portrayals. So I think for Data and Lore and Soong alone, you have to see this episode.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I agree. This is a See It for me. Much more so, it sounds like, than for Bill. This is probably my favorite Data episode of them all. If not that, it's my favorite Spiner episode because he does such a great job with those 3 different characters. I love Dr. Soong. I love how Data's able to completely lock down the Enterprise at the beginning of the episode and nobody can do a thing. And the lip sync between Brent Spiner as Data and Picard when he's encrypting the computer is so good. It's just 479-888 point lock. And it's watching Brent Spiner do that was magnificent. Definite See It.
I've seen Brent Spiner do a really convincing Patrick Stewart. So was it dubbed?
Oh,
I think it was.
I think it was too.
Okay. Because I heard while on set he like prank called Patrick's wife or something.
I could believe that.
So like it's just really weird that that he would be dubbed if he can do like a heads-on impression, but that's interesting. It's a See It for me as well. Brothers is a beautiful episode, and then like the ending with the kids and them explaining that they've made up even though the one tried to kill each other. It kind of gets you in the feels a bit.
The feels.
The feels. Dan has no feels.
Wow. Not for you, I don't.
All right. Episode 4, Suddenly Human. Picard must help a human boy raised by aliens to decide his fate.
Who's going first, Dan?
And we're going to go with Bill.
Woohoo! Yeah, this is not one of my favorite episodes. Once a See It or Skip It, I have a meh. This one is it. I don't love this episode. I can't stand the kid. It reminds me of Dumb and Dumber. You want to hear the most annoying sound in the world? And then it's that high-pitched shrill that, he does because he's not near his dad. It's like, yeah, kid, get over it. You're human. So for me, this one's a skip it. I can't stand this episode.
That was good, man. I actually gave this one a See It. If anything, just to hear the Banar, because it's so annoying. It's a great moral dilemma episode for me, in what Picard must decide to do. And I actually think he makes the right decision at the end by allowing Jono to go back with his stepfather. I guess, no, that's not the right word, but the alien father.
Surrogate father.
Surrogate, thank you. And if Bill does not give his vote in 5 minutes, that's my favorite line of that whole episode, when he says that on the view screen, like, what are you going to do, man? But yeah, it's a see it for me. So we finally have a difference of opinion.
Well, I would say this is a meh as well. I would see it. I love Star Trek so much. I usually only skip like the most hideous of hideous episodes, like Shades of Grey and Threshold.
Aquiel.
I love Aquiel.
Really bad ones. Yeah. I'll give this one a see it, just because, it's Star Trek, and if you've never seen it, you should at least see it once. If you never see it again, go with Bill.
All right.
I like that plan.
All right, episode 5, Remember Me. After an apparent failure of a warp field experiment, people begin to disappear from the Enterprise, with only Dr. Crusher remembering that they ever existed. Dan Davidson.
Yeah, this is a fun episode for me. I gave it a see it. I liked how people kept disappearing, and when Beverly would talk about them, the look on people's faces are like, who are you talking about? You're losing your mind. I thought it was great. I don't like the Traveler at all in any episode he's ever been in, so that's the one thing in this episode that I'm not really cool on. But other than that, I think it's a see it. It's a fun episode.
I would airlock the Traveler at the first instant, because I can't stand the Traveler at all. And I'm not a fan of this episode because it seemed like it was just a lame way to bring the Traveler back somehow. Huh. So, yeah, it's I'm not meh on it. I mean, it's just one I don't really dig. So for me, it's got to be a skip it.
Let me ask a question before you give your answer, Dave. I got a question for you, Bill. If the Traveler was not part of the story, because he really didn't have to be, kind of.
Right.
If he wasn't in it, what would you have said?
I probably would have a slightly more improved view of this episode, but his appearance just seems so contrived to me.
Yep.
That it brought the episode down for me. Okay. Thank you.
So this episode is titled Remember Me, and I totally forgot the Traveler was in this episode. So the episode failed at what it was trying to tell us, I think. But I would say to give it a see it, because I love Beverly kind of having like an episode kind of for her, and she going crazy and everyone just looking at her crazy. And Picard's like, only me and you've been on the ship ever. Duh. It's great. But the Traveler, he's unnecessary and he's really creepy. So
I also did like his the older guy at the beginning of the episode that's friends with Crusher, Dr. Quace. I thought that he was kind of cool. I liked him as well.
Yeah,
very nice. All right, so we're looking at episode 6, Legacy. Tasha Yar's sister, Ashara, seeks to restore order on their conflict-ridden colony world. Let's give it to Bill.
Let's see, Legacy. So this is the 80th episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. It's the one that put it one episode ahead of the original series, and they called it Legacy because of that. And really the only legacy this episode has is that it is as a steaming dog turd. I couldn't care any less about Tasha Yar's sister. And the story really just is terrible. So for me, and if you hadn't guessed, this is a skip it for me.
So is she lesser or greater than Tasha?
I think she's lesser because I think Tasha was more interesting, quite frankly.
Well, that's interesting. This is my first skip it of the season, episode 6. I can't stand this episode. It's really a shame that the record breaker, so to speak, with episode 80 is this episode. It's a horrible tribute to the anniversary. The whole idea of Ashara was weak. I didn't like the actress's acting at all, and I didn't like the story at all. So it's a definite skip it for me as well.
She looks like a poor man's Sarah Connor.
She does. She actually looks like Sarah Connor. You're right.
You're terminated. But I haven't seen this episode in a really long time, probably at least 3 years. So I'm just going to say see it because I don't remember it being as bad as Threshold or Shades of Grey. So I'm going to be lenient and just give it a see it.
You are a magnanimous sort, sir.
She is good looking if it's any consolation. So, guys, I've heard lots of people rant about how good she looks. So I've heard it. So, yeah, I don't have much to say about it. I don't remember it. It's been a long time. Strange. This comes right after Remember Me.
I'm sensing a trend here.
Yes, indeed. I guess it's been a while since I've seen season 4. All right. Reunion. Worf's former lover returns along with Picard, and the two mediate a Klingon-powered dispute. Worf discovers more family. Dan!
This is a definite see it. Definite see it. Kalar's back. Gowron. Kim Peck dies. And there's also Alexander. So it's a see it. This is a great episode. It's really a shame that we don't get to see more of Kalar. This one is one of the good ones of the season. Absolutely.
Kalar's back. I just wish you were staying longer. You know, same for Duras. A lot going on in this episode. I think it's fantastic. I think you should see it, even though it brings us another 7 years of Alexander.
Why couldn't Alexander have gotten murdered instead of Susie Plaxton?
I know, right?
Right? So, this is a definite see it. It's a beautiful episode. It's just so gut-wrenching to see Worf's stupidity killing the woman he loves. It's like, should I be stupid or let my woman help me? No, I'll be stupid. Reunion's a beautiful episode. I love Kim Peck. I love how he just like, Picard, you're doing it. You wouldn't have done it if I asked, so I'm kind of just not doing it the honorable way. And I'm pretty sure Klingons don't know what honor means anyway, but I love Kim Peck and Picard's, back and forth there in that episode. All right.
Well, the Klingon definition of honor seems to be
dishonor.
Very specious to the event, because when it's about individuals, it's all about honor. But when it's about the Empire, it's let's cover stuff up. So
yes, that's true. All right. So we are at Future Imperfect. Riker finds himself 16 years in the future. His memory of it. The interim erased by a dormant virus. I wonder if it came from the plant that stuck his leg.
Shades of Grey, Part 2.
Dun, dun, dun. All right, Bill.
Frakes is so good in this episode. He really is. And this is just a great Star Trek story. This one's absolutely a see it for me. It's fun. It holds up on continual rewatches. And I do find myself wondering what happened to the kid afterwards, but I think it's definitely one that should be watched.
Well, I don't think it's any surprise that this is a see it for me with an exclamation point. This actually was on my all-time top 10 TNG list several episodes back. So I think that my vote is definitely a see it. I love this episode. Admiral Picard, cool comm badges, minuet. The list just goes on. And of course, who could forget? My name is Barash. It's just a great episode. See it.
That was pretty good, Dan.
Thank you.
This is definitely a see it for me too. I love how Minuet comes back for like a second, and it's like, hey, wait a minute. I didn't marry her. I just loved a hologram that much, so she's still in my mind 4 years later.
Jordy, you're not that incompetent.
Final mission. Wesley sets off on his final mission with the Enterprise. That's a lie. Accompanied by Picard. They become stranded on a desert planet. And that will go to Dan.
Oh, I envy you, William Smith. You're just at the beginning of the adventure. This is a see it for me. I like this episode a lot. The episode is to me, it's a great send off for Wesley, we think. And we get to see those paternal feelings that Picard has developed over the years for Wesley. And in my mind, this is Will Wheaton's best performance on the show. So this was a see it for me.
I can kind of see how this may have happened in the writer's room. Somebody says, hey, since Will is leaving the show, let's find a way for Wesley to save Picard's life after they crash land somewhere. Yawn. I this episode, I got really excited because, when this episode premiered, the teaser the week before made it seem like Wesley could die, and I was all set for Wesley to die, and then Wesley didn't die, so it was a big letdown for me. That's probably why I call it a skip it, because, spoiler alert, Wesley doesn't die.
And he comes back.
And he comes back.
Which is the worst part.
Whew. Wesley hatred going around.
Other than that, I have no strong feelings about Wesley. # Wesley doesn't die.
What about you, Dave? What do you think?
I'd say see it just because, it's a good, decent episode of Star Trek. I guess it's a nice send-off for Will Wheaton, because I do enjoy Will Wheaton as a person nowadays, but I do not enjoy Wesley.
Wait a minute.
I'll see it as a low see it.
Wait a minute. Who? What did you say his name was?
Wheaton?
Wheaton? No, I'm not even gonna get into it. Don't even worry about it. Next.
Say wheat. Say Wheaton. All right. The Loss. An unknown force captures the Enterprise and causes Deanna to lose her empathic powers. And we're gonna go with Bill.
I like the concept of this episode, but I think the execution leaves a lot to be desired. I think it was good to see Deanna out of her element, but I think there were probably better ways to do this, and they do some of these better ways in future episodes. But otherwise, I think this is just a skip it, because there's really not a whole lot here in the context of this story.
Yeah, you don't really need to be an empath when watching this episode to know that Deanna is she's a real bitch when she loses her abilities. This was a skipping for me. I didn't really like this episode very much, so I'm going to give it the big old skip it.
I'm going to give it a see it, just because I can't wait to talk about this episode on my show, because it's so bad. It's going to be fun to talk about. Just because, I feel like Deanna Troy's powers never really used in an effective way in the show.
Great joy and gratitude.
Yeah, it's just she states pretty much the obvious. It's just if you've got basic intuition, that's all her ability seems to kind of do. If her ability did a little bit more, it would I think it would have been more impactful. But we've never seen her ability really do anything other than basic intuition, just basic reading people. Body language. What they say, what they don't say.
I sense he's being honest. Yeah, great job, Deanna.
I sense my neckline is plunged.
She's so cruel when Riker goes Imzadi and she's like, "Oh, please." It's like, wow.
And then they wrote a whole book, Imzadi. Oh, that was fun. All right, episode 11, Data's Day. Data gets dancing lessons from Dr. Crusher, the dancing doctor, in preparation of Chief O'Brien's wedding as the Enterprise brings Ambassador T'Pel to the Romulans for negotiations. Let's go with Ann Davidson.
Yeah, I gave this one a see it. I do like the idea of the espionage with the Ambassador T'Pel, but I gotta say, one of the funniest moments in TNG history is when Data is dancing with that holographic dancer and the camera pans on him and he's got that smile on his face. That is just gut-wrenchingly funny. That's a
good time.
This episode is just fun, and I think that after the seriousness of the first part of the season, coming off the Borg cliffhanger, I think they needed something to lighten it up a little bit, especially since the episode before this was The Loss and everything was tense and serious. So I'm glad they had something like this to break it up. Dan, you're right about the whole dancing scene being one of the funniest in TNG history. All in all, I think this is a well-balanced script, and it's good to see what Data does in a given day. I think it's interesting. And I like the way they framed it in context of it being a communication to Commander Maddox. So this one's a see it for me.
This one's definitely a see it for me as well. I really enjoy the episode. And hey, who can we have get married? No, not Riker, not Picard. Hey, there's a transporter chief that we see every now and then. Let's get him married.
Wait, marry him off.
Yeah, because that won't have ramifications later.
No.
All right, so episode 12, The Wounded. A rogue Starfleet captain jeopardizes their Cardassian peace treaty. Smells like Maquis. And we're going to go with Bill.
I love the Cardassians. I'm a huge fan of the Cardassians, and I love what this episode sets up for that culture vis-a-vis Deep Space Nine later on down the road. This is a great story told well, and it's nice to see O'Brien get a little more to do after they married him off in the last episode. So clearly this guy's going to be around for a while, I think. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. But I think this one's a definite see it, even despite the song they sing in the Captain's Ready Room.
Yeah, this is an amazing debut for the Cardassians. Gul Macet looks eerily familiar, though, doesn't he, boys? Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. It actually, they tie that together really well. In the novels, it actually turns out that Gul Macet is Gul Dukat's cousin. So that's kind of cool. And Gul Dukat is my favorite Star Trek villain of all time. Captain Maxwell is a great character who is brilliantly portrayed by the talented Bob Gunton. So this is a definite see it for me. Great episode.
Yes, indeed. See it all the way. This is a high see it. It's great getting to see O'Brien start to do more than, yes, sir, I'll transport you here, sir. A lot of fun. I do like the singing at the end. I thought it was nice camaraderie that you don't always see in Star Trek in a different kind of way. So I did definitely enjoy The Wounded. Episode 13, Devil's Due, a powerful mythic figure from a millennium ago, returns to enslave a planet in accordance with a contract. However, Picard is convinced that she is an opportunistic charlatan. Guest stars Marta Dubois as Ardra. And we're going to go with Adenda Davidson.
Yeah, Ardra. Sorry if I offend anyone. Major hottie. Loved her. Great character. And Farklar. Excuse me. Feklar.
You are not Feklar.
This is a
or
see it for me.
Farklar, for that matter.
I love this episode. Definite see it.
I'm in the same camp, Dan. This is a see it, and it's funny because I wrote 2 words, Marta Dubois. I have loved Marta Dubois ever since I was a preteen, and she turned up all over 80s television on shows like Tales of the Gold Monkey and The A-Team and Magnum P.I. She was one of my favorites, and as far as TV guest stars went, and she's the perfect choice for this role. She complements Patrick Stewart incredibly well. It's a fun script. We obviously know she's a con woman to start with, because Star Trek's not going to create a devil. I'm looking at you, Magics of Omegas 2. And,
they make the devil. And all too.
Yeah, right. But this is a fun, entertaining script. I love this episode. It's a definite see it.
It would have been great if they tied it back into the Magics of Omegas 2. Come on. Right?
Well, I know, but we beat on that episode a lot because Adam Drosen loves it.
And that's reason enough.
It's not a good episode, but it would have been fun if they would have tied it together. That would have been kind of fun. This is a great episode. Definitely worth seeing. Seeing the Klingon version of the devil was great. Feklar, love it. Episode 14, Clues. The crew, with the exception of Data, is rendered unconscious for 30 seconds after going through a localized wormhole. However, various clues suggest they were unconscious for an entire day. Bill, are you going to sleep this one off?
No, I'm not going to sleep this one off. I'm in this one with Data the entire way because it's interesting enough to see, and I really like the way it resolves. It tells a Star Trek-like story. You don't necessarily expect that it's going to. It's a story that's told well. It's acted well. The writers kept it interesting enough, and I kind of like that. It's good to see that they'll go to these extents and these circumstances to preserve other societies. So this one's a see it for me.
Yeah, this is actually one of my favorite episodes of season 4. I really like how they do this episode with the clues. So it was pretty properly named as well. And I love how Picard orders Data to never reveal what happened. I thought that was a really good way to have the episode tie together. And the floating head at the end of the episode is also pretty good too.
Gotta have floating head in Star Trek. You really do.
At least once a season. Come on. Yeah,
that's right.
It's a fantastic episode. I love how Data's I'm trying not to break orders. So following your orders is going to make me break other orders. It's great. Totally great. And love how Brent Spiner kind of carries it with everyone else kind of like breathing down his neck. It's a very fun episode. Episode 15, First Contact. Riker is hospitalized during a botched free first contact mission. Xenophobia results in increasing hostility toward his presence. Bill.
I've always wondered why we send Riker down on missions like this, because between this and Frame of Mind, it seems like Riker always gets hosed. He gets caught and he winds up in some alien facility where they figure out, hey, this guy's not one of us. But this is essential viewing for season 4 and for TNG, in my opinion. It tells a great story about First Contact and about the Prime Directive. And I think that the guest stars add to this. George Coe as the leader of the planet. He's fabulous in everything he's in. But all in all, this episode hits every mark. So it's an absolute see it, Dan.
Yeah, this is definitely a see it. This is one of those can't miss episodes of TNG as a whole. It's exactly what First Contact is all about. And of course, the scenes with BB New Earth are obviously legend. But there's so much more about this episode to love, even with the mitten hands. So yeah, we'll give it a see it.
This is definitely a see it for me too. Love First Contact's gone wrong because, that's just kind of how things go in Star Trek, because it's got to go wrong, so there's going to be a story there.
Of course.
And then Riker's like, hey, I'll see you later. Isn't this the one where he's like, I'll call you later, where he's like, he wakes up, the nurse is like falling in love with him?
Yeah, I'll call you.
It's like, yeah, I'll call you. It's like, even though they're like, pre-warp civilizations, First Contact botched, and he's like, yeah, I'll hit that later. I'll call you. It's great. Love Riker. When he's always in those fun situations. I should have started
Riker's
there.
the man. I know, right?
If it's like Angel 1, just sleep with the leader and you'll be fine.
I don't know if that would have helped him in this case.
It's hard to resist Riker with a beard, though.
I know, Dan can't.
All right. Episode 16, Galaxy's Child. The Enterprise accidentally kills a space creature and the crew rush to save its unborn offspring. Meanwhile, Geordi meets the engineer he fell in love with and finds to his shock that she is nothing like the woman he encountered in the holodeck. Guest stars Susan Gibney as Dr. Leah Brahms. And we're going to give this to Bill.
There is absolutely nothing about this story that interests me, whether it's the story about the alien or the story about Geordi and Leah. And I think it falls flat on just about every level. It's interesting to think that Susan Gibney was almost 7 of 9.
Whoa.
Wow. Yeah, because I think that, I don't know that I would have been on board with that casting. So for me, this one's a skip it, just because there's nothing good that happens here.
While I can appreciate the story regarding the killed mother and the need to take care of the infant creature and the sense of responsibility for the Enterprise crew, the whole Leah Geordi story arc just falls flat again. And that seems to be the case with any real romance story that takes place on the Enterprise. And the special effects are weak. I didn't think that they were very well done at all. This is maybe the strongest skip it of the season. Well, no, Legacy I think is, but this is a skip it for me.
There's this TNG edit called Riker where it's edited together so that Riker is the father of this alien. And it makes me love this episode just because it's so absurd that they made this amazing edit. So I'm going to say see it because I also like seeing Geordi fall on his face when it comes to women. I think if they would have kept Sonia Gomez, like she was the only woman that seemed to not like be immediately put off by Geordi, that could have been something. And I loved Sonia Gomez because she was funny. But just seeing Geordi just get robbed of every romance he's ever thought about is just great. So if you want to see Geordi fall apart, enjoy.
Oh.
Poor Geordi.
And on Synthaholics next week, hashtag Dave hates Geordi.
Actually, probably by the time this episode comes out, we'll be talking about Q Who. So,
all right.
And I say Sonia. I call her Selena. I think.
Selena Gomez.
Selena Gomez. So that was my whole fun mishap for that episode.
Times.
Yeah, it was good times. Episode 17, Night Terrors. Enterprise is trapped in a raft. The crew succumbs to REM sleep deprivation, and Deanna has a recurring nightmare. We're gonna go with Dan Davidson.
Where are you? Yeah, well, hopefully you're not here watching this episode ever again. Skip it. Bill?
You know, it's funny because the first time I went to a Star Trek convention that featured somebody from Next Gen, it was in Providence, Rhode Island, and Michael Dorn was the headline guest. And it was the weekend this episode premiered. And so he's up there and he's talking on the stage before he starts taking questions. He goes, "Hey, did you guys see that episode last night?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, that was terrible, wasn't it?" And we're like, "Yeah." He goes, "I don't know what was up with Marina flying through the air." He goes, "But she hated that. Believe me, she hated that. That's all we heard about." Earlier I said Legacy was a pile of dog crap. This episode is that same pile of dog crap lit on fire and put on someone's porch. And they've rung the doorbell and we were coming out to stomp on it to put it out. This one is probably the biggest skip it of the season for me.
I'm going to finally skip an episode. This one is that flaming pile of dog turd on someone's doorstep. It is so bad. And the only thing I kind of like about it was interesting that, lack of REM sleep will kill you. I'm like, oh, that's kind of an interesting idea. But Deanna Troi floating there in that harness, and it was such an unflattering look at her butt. I cannot recommend this episode to anybody, any way, shape, or form. You're better off not watching this episode.
You're better off watching Shades of Grey twice.
No,
you are, because the Shades of Grey is not worse than this episode.
Yes, it is.
I know. I agree with Bill on that one.
Shades of Grey is just a clip show of stuff you've already seen.
Yeah, I don't want to see it. I've already seen it in other episodes that I'd rather rewatch. That's what makes Shades of Grey so bad.
If I'm stuck on the desert island and my choices of Night Terrors or Shades of Grey, I'm going to watch Shades of Grey all day long.
What about the Voyager version of Night Terrors, The Fight?
I don't know if I know that one.
It's the one where Chakotay he's got an alien influence in his brain, and he's trying to he's scared it's going to make him go insane. He keeps having these flashbacks to these boxing matches and this future. It's basically he's kind of the Deanna Troi surrogate in this episode.
I haven't seen that one.
Where weird stuff's happening to him. It's really bad. It's basically Voyager's version of this episode.
I can't wait to get to that one someday. Fantastic.
To tear it apart. So finally, yes, to skip it. This is a terrible episode. Don't watch it, please. Episode 18, Identity Crisis. Geordi transforms into an alien creature with a strong instinct to return to its planet of origin. And we're going to go with Bill.
Thanks, Dave. I think I was on the fence with this one initially. Ultimately, I think it's a see it, but it's really because the guest role of Commander Layton, played by Marianne Plunkett, really kind of elevates this story. She does a great job opposite LeVar Burton, and I think that she is really compelling, whereas most guest stars really don't get a lot to do. I think she kind of does. So for that alone, I think this one's a see it. Plus, the makeup is really cool. I will say that.
Yeah, I don't really love this episode, but it holds my attention enough to warrant giving it a see it. And what Bill just said is one of the main reasons is the makeup in this is really, really cool. LeVar does a great job, and it's a good Star Trek story. So I'll give it a borderline see it.
I'm going to give it a strong see it. I really liked this episode. I liked the future tech idea of this episode where he's trying to figure out what's going on with the holodeck. I love it when they use the holodeck and the holodeck doesn't try to kill them, and they use it in a really cool CSI-ish way. As a child, I was totally fascinated by how he was trying to figure out what was going on. He finds the shadow of that guy by eliminating certain objects, and it was just really cool the way it's set up.
That is a good moment too.
It is.
So I mean, the way that scene was constructed, I just love the episode for that mostly, because it was just a really fun way, a sciencey way of using your play technology, which was really good. I wish they would have done more episodes like this where they're actually using the holodeck and they do have some, but I mean, but this was really hard like one person like digging, trying to find the details instead of like a courtroom seeing, as you see in other instances of holodeck use.
Sure.
Okay. The Nth Degree, episode 19. After the encounter with an alien probe, Barclay experiences great leaps in confidence and intelligence. Dan Davidson.
Yeah, seeing Barclay as a genius talking down to people as he gets smarter is really something that you don't expect because of what we've seen with Barclay in the past. I thought that was a great change of his character in this episode. And, you were just in the holodeck arguing with Albert Einstein is a great line in this movie. And Dwight Schultz, as usual, just hits it right out of the park. He does a great job. So this is a strong see it for me for this one.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I mean, Dwight Schultz is perfect in this. I love that they keep giving Reg Barclay different things to do. Clearly, there's a few neuroses going on with Barclay, and I love that we get the chance to explore some of those in really grand ways in Next Gen, because I think these are things you probably couldn't do with the regular characters. So this one's an absolute see it for me. I love this episode. I watch it, anytime it's on. It never disappoints.
Totally agree, guys. This is a total, very high see it. Anytime Barclay's on screen, I pretty much always love it. He's a funny. I love Dwight Schultz. He's a funny character, and just seeing him become like super confident and super smart, and like he's building stuff faster, like in his mind, than the Enterprise can do, which is so cool. See it for sure. Watch it twice and forget Night Terrors. Episode 20, Cupid. Q returns to test Picard's love of an old flame. We're going to go, Bill.
One of the movies I really love is Errol Flynn's The Adventures of Robin Hood. I've loved that movie since I was a kid, especially that scene where he takes the deer, into the big great hall and throws it onto the table over his shoulders. And the deer's still kicking, It's just it's a fun movie. Cupid reminds me of that in many ways because it's a very fun script that's written well, and it's Q. I mean, come on. It's lighthearted. Again, it breaks up, some really serious stuff that happens the rest of the season. It's perfectly placed, and it's a treat. So it's a definite see it for me.
One of my favorite cartoons growing up was the Daffy Duck Robin Hood episode. Yoicks and away! I just always loved it. And this episode is a hoot. It's fun. There's so many funny moments when Worf smashes Geordi's instrument on the rocks and I am not a merry man. It's just so fun. Of course, anything with Q is great. The whole idea of Sherwood Forest, Data going to raise his hand and he's got a big turkey leg in his hand. It's just awesome. This is a great see it episode.
I can't agree with you guys more. Much like Barclay, anytime Q's in an episode, you can't help but see it, except for maybe Encounter at 4 Point, because the other half of that episode's kind of meh. But yeah, anytime Q's there, it's awesome. I love the Robin Hood scenes. Just how, like you said, he bashes Geordi's loot, and apparently arrows do more damage than machine gun bullets because he's like, oh, good thing that arrow didn't hit this. And then in First Contact, he gets like a Tommy gun.
Right.
A Tommy gun injection, and he has no issue. So it's like, maybe he upgraded his exoskeleton. But yeah, it's a great episode, a lot of fun. And it kind of is our stepping stone to seeing Vosh and Deep Space Nine.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Episode 21, The Drumhead. A witch hunt ensues for suspected Romulan spies aboard the Enterprise. Bill!
This is one of the best episodes of the entire series, and it's one of my personal favorites, simply because it reminds me of the Crucible in many ways. It is a literal witch hunt of sorts, and it's looking for spies, and it's compelling. Gene Simmons, not that Gene Simmons, is simply amazing. She was a big Star Trek fan at the time, and they found a way to work her into the show. And Admiral Satie is a brilliant character, and it's fun to watch her just go off the rails. This is an absolute see it for me.
Yeah, I echo what you said, Bill. This is one of the season's best, but it's one of the series' best, if not the entire Star Trek universe best. This is a brilliant episode. The entire episode has so many memorable aspects to it, and again, like you said, the very least of which is Gene Simmons' performance as Admiral Satie. Every time she's on camera in this episode, you just stop and you just watch and you just let it all sink in. It is brilliant. Picard's speech, which makes her go off the rails, like you said, is awesome. You cannot miss this episode if you're going to watch Star Trek.
I've brought down bigger men than you, Picard.
Wow, nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is a great episode, a staple of what Star Trek is in every possible way. Great intrigue, great, courtroom scenes, it just great resolution. Watch this episode and just enjoy the heck out of it. All right. Half a life. Loxana Troy finds love, but discovers her man must undergo ritualistic suicide. Dan!
Yes, well, as anybody who listens to the show knows, I'm not a fan of stories that involve romance between characters, because they usually aren't very good storytelling, and I'm not a fan of Loxana Troy episodes for the most part. This episode is the exception to both of those rules that I have. This is a brilliant episode. It's one of the most powerful and emotional episodes of the entire season. It's brilliant Star Trek storytelling. It's got a Logan's Run aspect to it. Cogsworth from Beauty and the Beast is in it. Seriously, though, David Ogden Stiers should have won an Emmy for this episode. It is a see it times 10.
I have to agree. This is probably the best that Majel is in just about anything. She's phenomenal in this episode. David Ogden Stiers is amazing in this episode, and the two of them together are very compelling. It's a great story that just speaks to the soul of Star Trek. It's nice to see Michelle Forbes work in an appearance here before she becomes Ensign Ro later on. But this is one of those classic Star Trek episodes that I think is an absolute must-see. So definite see it for me, Dave.
Yeah, I'd have to go with that. Must see. I love Loxana Troy episodes. Sorry, Dan, but I love Loxana. Okay. I love pretty much all of her episodes. I can't think of one that I can't stand. So I would definitely recommend seeing this. And her emotional ride for this does kind of hit you. The more older I get, the more I watch Star Trek, the different things start to kind of get me. So it's a great episode. Seeing her kind of grow emotionally as a person. So it's definitely...
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Without a doubt.
All right. The host, Dr. Crusher, falls in love with Odan, a peace negotiator, only to discover he is a symbiont. With his original host dies, he is implanted into Riker temporarily to finish his negotiations. Let's go with Bill.
I'm going to call this episode a See It. And in order to explain why, I've created a hashtag. And the only reason you need to see this episode is this. Hashtag Riker does it with Beverly. Mic drop. Because it introduces the Trill, which is nice. And we learned about their society a little bit, although they look differently when we see Jadzia and Deep Space Nine. But come on, Riker and Beverly get it together, yo.
I would rather watch Picard or Riker's father and the Doctor from
Pulaski?
season 2. Yeah,
Pulaski.
than this episode. This is a skip it, please skip it episode for me. And part of the reason is I have a huge problem with it is they either really screwed up the rest of Trill's storytelling with Deep Space Nine and further down the road, or they just completely ignored this episode because it just... You can't put a host in a non-Trill. You just can't, according to what happens later on down the road. And I know I'm talking about stuff that hadn't happened yet at this point. I just can't forgive it. So it's a skip it.
There's always growing pains when you first meet a race in Star Trek. Always. Just about, if they're a recurring race anyway.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think that I like the changes they made as far as Deep Space Nine goes. It's a shame that they didn't maybe go back and flush some of that out beforehand. But again, hashtag Riker does it with Beverly. I leave it there.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely go with a seat on this one. Beverly's great. She's like, oh, I love Odan. It's like, oh, I can love you if you're Riker too. And then I'm a chick now. I'm like, oh, I can't go that far. I'm sorry. It's just not gonna. I can't swing it anymore. And then she's sad and depressed that her love's a woman now. Which, I mean, it's great. It's just kind of interesting to see how fluid the hosts are, and it does kind of break canon a little bit. But then again, like, you know, things change. Maybe other simians are more in rejection than others. Who knows? But like I said, like almost all the time, a new race is introduced, and they come back. There's always going to be growing pains. Like the Borg, they grow children in dwarves and you know, Q-Who, and later on they grow them in fish tanks. So, I mean...
Right.
So, they'll always change, you know, Klingons, Ferengi.
All of them. Oh, my.
It's kind of how it goes, unfortunately. But, I mean, at least they get more solid once things are fleshed out. But it's a good episode. I enjoy it. It's the first time we see a Trill. Good for them. All right. Episode 24, The Mind's Eye. The Romulans brainwashed Geordi to carry out a covert mission. Bill!
You know, this episode is essentially the Manchurian Candidate in space, and it's great. LeVar hasn't had this much to do since last season when he was trapped on a planet. I think it was Galorndon Core with a Romulan. So it's the most interesting thing.
Romulans.
I know, right? It's the most interesting thing he's had in a while. And I think this episode's a definite see it. Lots of intrigue. It's just, it's good stuff.
It seems to me that Geordi is the equivalent of O'Brien on Deep Space Nine, that he's the guy that gets tortured all the time. It's a great Geordi episode, and it's done very, very well. And I got to say, the way that he just kills O'Brien in the simulation and then just dumps his body over and sits at the table, that's chilling, man. It's really good stuff. So, and we get to see Tomalak. So it's, is it Tomalak? No, he's not in this one. But it's a great See It episode.
We do see Sela.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I wanted to quit. Give me another job, please.
I know, right?
Yeah, this is a pretty good episode. It's always fun seeing the Romulans in Next Gen, except for their forehead ridges, but it's always fun kind of seeing them and what they're up to and how nefarious they are. Definitely a see it. All right, episode 25. In theory, Data participates in a romantic relationship with a fellow crew member, Dan Davidson.
Yeah, I'm going to barely give this one a see it. This is one of those, it could have gone either way, depending on the mood I'm in. Okay, so, honey, you're falling for an android. You do understand that, right? Hello? I give it a see it basically because Spiner's great in this episode because he has all these little adjustments to his programming for being in a relationship, and some of them are really quite hilarious. So I'll give it a borderline see it. I'll be nice tonight.
I came down on the other side of that border. For me, this one's a skip it. I don't find Jenna interesting, and I'm not sure why Data, a life form with no emotions, does either. You know, I get that she's attracted to men who are emotionally unavailable, and she really knocks it out of the park with that one because, well, Data's about as unavailable as you can get. I don't really have an interest in this episode. I think it would have been interesting if Data had his emotion chip. That could have been interesting. But for him to experience love, possibly, and loss. But other than that, this one's a skip it for me.
That's an interesting point, Bill. I think this episode could have been a lot more interesting with a emotion chip involved. But maybe if they did a sequel with the emotion chip, it could have been even better. Because I really do like this episode. Because I think it's funny. She's like, man, my last boyfriend he just didn't care and he didn't talk to me. And then I want to talk to someone and date them who's got no emotions at all.
Yeah.
She is fantastic. How she's just moving on from train wreck to, the train's not even built yet.
Oh yeah, and that's it. She's a train wreck. She's got so many issues. She should not be in a relationship, let alone with an android.
Maybe she should try Trill.
Maybe she should just try Netflix and chill.
Holodeck and chill. Yeah, this is a fun episode. I love like Dan. I love Spiner's performance. He's great, and he's like, yeah, I've I was thinking about you and this thing I'm composing and this work thing I'm doing, and the music I'm playing. But yeah, you're in there. You're like in the top 25.
Yeah, she's in there somewhere, kinda.
Better than not in there at all, right? And then I love it how, like, you know, where she's like, oh, you don't ever get angry. So he figures out, like, he just downloads random things to say when he should be quote unquote angry. It's just fantastic.
I'm glad this one's not the season ender, because that would have ended on a really sour note for me,
Like,
at least.
it would have been your shades of gray.
Probably, yeah.
All right, episode 26, Redemption Part 1. Worf leaves the Enterprise to fight on behalf of Gowron in a Klingon civil war. Dan Davidson.
Yeah, this is a great cliffhanger for season 4, for the final episode, even if Seela's in it. And I think that can be balanced off plus some by the fact that Tony Todd is, as usual, he's just magnificent. So I'll definitely give this one a see it, and just overlook the Seela aspect of it.
I wonder why, Dan. This one's a see it for me. I mean, you think about the fact that they decided to do a second cliffhanger in another season. So, I mean, obviously it draws comparisons to Best of Both Worlds, but I don't think it should, because it's a completely different story. I think it's a solid cliffhanger. It leaves the Klingon Empire certainly at a very precarious position, and it leaves Worf with, having to make a fairly serious, decision of his own. So I like this story. It sets, has some far-reaching implications for future episodes and seasons, and even in Deep Space Nine to some extent. So I think this one's a definite see it.
I totally agree. This is a see it episode because it ends the season. It sets up for next season, so you can't go in the next season without seeing this one. So definitely see it. I love the Klingon politics, and that's kind of like the love child of Ronald D. Moore, and so I love his his work on the Klingon aspect of Star Trek and fleshing out them and their background and what they do and why they bang heads together.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Well, gentlemen, it'll be interesting to see how we tally up. Dave, we've been tallying yours up as we went, and I'll give mine. Dan, if you want to then give Dave's and then yours, we'll do it that way. How's that sound?
Sure, absolutely. I think that sounds great.
I was mine up as well. So
okay, I came in at 18 for 26 for a percentage of 69.23%. So clearly, I'm just shy, just over 2/3.
Wow,
of the episodes that I would watch in this season for me.
That's surprising to me, man. I thought it would be higher than that. That's amazing. I'm really not sure. Maybe we should have Amy back on the show, because I don't know if we're going to get a higher rating than hers or Dave's, because Dave was 25 of 26 of See It for 96.15%. Dude, stop kissing their butt.
Look, ever since I started my podcast 2 years ago, I only watched Star Trek to do it for the show. So I mean, I can't really skip it. If we need to talk about
watch them all.
But I will forcibly skip Shades of Grey, because we've already kind of talked about it. So I can and Threshold, so I don't have to ever watch those again. Thank goodness.
Well,
so Dan, where did you come in?
I came in higher than Bill, and I came in lower than Dave. Anybody probably would come in lower than Dave. I actually had 21 out of the 26 episodes ranked as See It for 80.77%. So a little bit higher than Bill, lower than Dave, and right in the middle. Yeah.
That's really interesting. I think that, there's some definite ones that were borderline either way, and you came down on one side and I came down on the other, but there are just some other ones that I hate that you love, and I think we go through that at least a couple of times a season when we do this.
We do. Absolutely.
All in all, I mean, I think season 4 is a solid season. I think it's a good follow-up to season 3 as far as story quality goes. And I look forward to when we do this for season 5, because I know there's some really great stories in season 5.
But you gave it low scores like season 1 and season 2.
Well, but I mean, that's the law of averages, right? So there's 26 episodes, and if I hit less than 20, I'm going to be somewhere in the 60s. So there are Wesley episodes in this. There are some other ones I just can't stand.
Listen to you. The law of averages. Mr. I am the law. That's awesome.
Well, but think about it. Season 1 was 50% down the middle.
Yep.
Season 2 was less than that. It was 45%.
Right.
Season 3, I hit 96%. So if anything, I think I'm sort of course correcting here with better than 2/3. I think 69% is not a bad average.
Okay.
So take that, jerks.
I bet you Amy disagrees with you.
Amy will disagree with me.
But she'll love me.
Yeah, I know, right? Tell me about it. So, Dave, thank you so much for joining us and for shepherding us through this See It or Skip It, dude. We really appreciate it. Why don't you tell people where they can find you and Synthaholics on social media?
Excellent. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been a great pleasure being here, getting to talk with you guys. I talked with you, Bill, a year ago on my show for Star Trek V. It was a lot of fun, and it's my first time actually getting to talk with Dan, so it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you guys so much for having me on. As far as the social media goes, you can find Synthaholics on Facebook. We have a group, synthaholics.com/group/Synthaholics, and I'm in the Camp Kittimer group too, so you can always say hi to me there as well. I try to post whenever I can. On Twitter, we're at Synthaholic Duo, and personally, I'm David_J_Duncan, and my co-host is at Aaron O'Brien. He's at Blackbird 2004.
Awesome job. Well, we hope everyone will head on over and check you out. And of course, like you said, you're in Camp Kittimer all the time, and Synthaholics episodes wind up getting posted there as well. So one-stop shopping for everyone.
And your guys I think you guys always post in Synthaholics group as well. So we're a nice little family.
Lots of great things going on in the Star Trek podcast community. Dude, we're going to have you hold on as we just sort of wrap things up. Dan.
Bill.
People may want to know how they can subscribe to this here podcast, and how might they accomplish that, my friend?
Well, if you're new to the podcast, or even if you're not new but want to subscribe, we've made it very easy to do so. You can have every episode of Trek Geeks automatically downloaded straight to your mobile device by heading on over to subscribe.trekgeeks. I did that last time. Subscribe.trekgeeks.com will give you all the details on how you can get this here podcast every Tuesday delivered to your iPod, iPhone, Android, or any other favorite device that you might have. Also, you can listen to the podcast on iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or just go to trekgeeks.com and click on one of the album covers and listen away and enjoy yourself. It's your independent Star Trek podcast delivered your way, so make it so.
Make it so indeed. And Dan, the other thing we want people to make so is to become huge fans of the band 5 Year Mission. We can't thank them enough. They are every bit of music you hear on Trek Geeks, and their sound is just really fabulous. They've got a whole bunch of albums. They're working on finishing up year 4 right now, Dan. Did you know that, sir?
I did know that, but I want it done now so I can listen to it now. You hear what I'm saying?
I'm thinking you want it now.
I want it now. But you know what I do want to tell you now, as we're talking about 5 Year Mission, is that I saw this episode. I always have to watch an episode before we podcast because there's always something to talk about. It wasn't a great episode, it was just, early seasons. The band was trying to negotiate an end to these raids that were being launched by an enemy band called the Gatherers, but a murder threatened to prevent the peace. It's the Vengeance Factor, and you need to check it out.
The Vengeance Factor. Oh, man. That was just painful.
Whenever I get a laugh out of you, I consider it a good thing, so I'll take it.
I wasn't expecting that one, quite frankly. I should know better. Yeah, quite farkly. That's true. But yeah, please head out to 5yearmission.net. Download all their albums, year 1, 2, 3. Year 4 is coming soon. They have Spock's Brain. They have The Trouble with Tribbles. Definitely, you're going to become a big fan just like we are. Dan, we also want to thank Aaron Harvey, who designed the Trek Geeks Delta symbol. It's on all of our podcast artwork, and Aaron has a great podcast over on Trek FM called Saturday Morning Trek. You can find him also on Twitter at GeekFilter. Dan, next week, looks like we got something fun coming up, buddy. I can't wait.
Oh, yeah. Fun. Yeah. Oh, okay, I'll tell you. Yeah, there's going to be lots of questions. And hopefully there's going to be some answers because you've been asking for it, and now you're going to get it. It's an all-new round of Stump the Geek.
Yeah. Dan Davidson in the hot seat. 5 questions, 1 multi-part bonus. Will he be victorious? I guess we'll find out next week on Trek Geeks. Dan, for more great Star Trek discussion after everybody checks out Synthaholics, please head on over to visit our friends at the Tricorder Transmissions online at thetricordertransmissions.com. And of course, for all the news on all the Star Treks, please visit treknews.net. Online at treknews.net. For now, this has been episode 108 of the Trek Geeks podcast. We do hope you all live long and prosper.
Then I resign my commission as a Starfleet coconut.
Bing bong.
Bing bong. Hello.
Hello, Governor.
It's interesting that y'all say it like that because my nephew's going to London. I don't know how to talk like one.
That's apparently quite evident.
Yes. He's heading over for vet school in September.
Like veterinarian?
Veterinarian, yes. He's going to be a doctor of the animals.
We don't have one of those here?
I guess there's a real good one over there.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, he's pretty excited. He just has to find a place to live, kind of one of those non-important things, but, to each his own, I guess.
Wow, so you've got some smart people in your family. Are you sure that you're not adopted?
Pretty sure.
I don't know.
But you know what? I got the sense of humor, so I win.
You do? I mean, you do. You do.
Yes, you do, period, not you do, question mark.
You do?
No. Try it again.
You do?
I'm going to drive down there and I'm just going to punch you right in the throat.
Well, apparently you've got all the rage issues.
No. Huggy.
Huggy bear?
Huggy bear. We have not done a match game sound in quite a long time.
That's true. I think we'll be taking care of that someday very soon.
Oh, I like where you're going with this.
Maybe next week.
We'll see. Yeah.
You probably get a little Stump the Geek, buddy.
I Stump the Geek. I really am in vacation mode right now, so I'm probably going to do miserable. Don't even. Just be quiet. Shut your face.
All I can say is the bonus question. I might have to bleep you.
I look forward to the bonus question.
It's a 5-part question in a way, but it could be considered a 10-part question.
What? Oh, okay. Wow. Why do you want to torture the listeners with this?
I don't. It's you I want to torture because I think that they enjoy it when you're tortured.
Well, no. Well, yeah, that's probably true.
That's probably true. Yeah.
That's probably true. So we're going to become gnomes. Did you see that?
I did see that.
That's pretty awesome.
I love the paint job that yours is getting already. Jackie's doing a fantastic job.
It should be quite interesting. Yes.
I can only imagine what mine will look like.
Well, as long as your face isn't on it, I'm sure it'll look just fine.
All gnomes have faces, Dan. Have you never seen a gnome before?
Not your face.
That's was the dumbest thing you've ever seen.
You just don't listen to me. You just don't listen.
What?
Yeah.
Chicken butt?
Can we do this? I just want to get off this mic so I don't have to listen to you for 10 days. Oh, Huggy. Another Huggy bear. What was the name of the bear in the Sugar Smack cereal?
Sugar Bear.
Okay. Well, that was a
Which, after they stopped calling it Sugar Smacks, or they gave him a different name, I think.
Oh, okay. Do you know what that was?
And I don't.
I don't.
Well, because when we were kids, they advertised the fact that it had sugar. Now they don't want to do that.
Right. Why would they want to do that? I wonder.
Well, it wasn't it Super Sugar Crisp because Sugar Smacks was the frog. Dig 'em.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Huh?
Or am I getting those confused?
I'm not. I don't know. I'll have to. I can still use my computer before we start the show. Let me check. Sugar Smacks. Let's see what comes up for the little picture. It's the Sugar Smacks is the frog.
Yeah. So post Super Sugar Crisp, which is a real tongue twister, with Sugar Bear.
I'm looking at a Sugar Smacks box from the 1960s with Spock on it, and his emblem is on the wrong shoulder.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. Kind of funny.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
I'm gonna.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Do you see it? Isn't that a riot?
I did some Googling.
You did the Google?
I used the Googly machine.
The Googly bits.
The Giggle.
Yeah, Sugar Bear is for the sugar stuff.
Although there were some, in some of those boxes, there were some free Star Trek iron-on transfers, which made them really cool.
I still might have those.
Really?
No, not at all.
Oh, sorry.
Wow, look at that. Serial nostalgia for an outtake. Who would have thought?
I know. Tell me about it.
Wow. Quisp. That was another one.
I never had that one.
It was with that. It was like a little alien that had like one of those propeller hats on. He was the character.
I vaguely remember it.
Yeah.
I spent more time eating Cocoa Krispies.
Oh, very nice.
Alphabets.
Alphabets. Yes, I liked alphabets.
And honeycombs.
Honeycombs. I loved honeycombs. Love honeycombs. Yeah.
I mean, honeycombs and alphabets were essentially the same cereal, just different shapes.
Very good. I like that. And if you took the alphabets apart and made them straight, you could put them in the honeycomb.
Oh, look at you.
Then you'd have a full breakfast of sugary sweet delight.
What was your favorite breakfast as a kid?
I liked Cocoa Pebbles a lot.
Really?
Yeah. I used to always take the Lucky Charms also and sit in the living room and take 2 bowls and put all of the marshmallows in one bowl and all the other stuff in the other bowl, eat the marshmallows, and then put all the other stuff back in the box and put it in the cabinet.
That must have driven your brother and sister crazy.
Yeah, that was good stuff. Yeah.
My favorite was regular Cheerios with toast, but the toast had to be really buttery.
Really?
Yeah, I had something about those 2 flavors together. I just screams comfort and childhood to me.
That's very interesting. I did love real cinnamon toast when I was a kid. That toast with the butter and then the cinnamon sugar mixture on it.
Oh yeah,
good stuff. Good stuff. That's just a heart attack waiting to happen at my age.
Yeah, I know, and you're pretty old.
Yeah, I'm a month older than you, jerk.
You're still older. You'll still always be older than me.
I will always be older unless I go through a temporal rift. A little yesterday's Enterprise back at you.
Don't get me started. Here's one of the other reasons why I'm convinced that it is the same timeline.
It is. Well, it is the same timeline.
It is. But every other time our characters are they are in a different timeline, there is always some kind of grounding to our timeline. So they are sort of fish out of water, like Mirror Mirror or the DS9 Mirror episodes. Mm-hmm. They can explain to you, oh, we must be in a different timeline. That doesn't happen in yesterday's Enterprise.
Right. They think they're in their regular time. Right. Yep. Oh, yeah. The more we talked about it and after the fact and even listening or reading some of the things that have been said this week on Camp Kittimer, I'm more convinced now. Some people have said, oh, maybe it was protected going back. No, I don't buy that. No, she should have winked out. No. All right. Ron Moore said it, so it's law.
It's law. More law.
More law, Star Trek law.
All right. You ready to do this?
I am. Oh, boy. I guess so.